Hi, welcome to my video on adding polynomials by the vertical method. Adding by the vertical method. Well, the vertical method means that it would be one on top of the other, as in height. Horizontal would mean to go sideways, so the adding that we did in the first video was horizontal, sideways. So let's do several, doing different methods. Horizontal, when you add these, you remove the brackets. When you're adding, notice I'm not changing the sign of the 2x or the plus 7. I group my like terms, which is the x's, and the constants. And that's a 1, so 1 plus 2 is 3x plus 11. The vertical method means that I'll write down this first binomial, and I'll put the other binomial below it, but I'll keep the like terms under the like terms. In other words, like when you're adding decimals, you put, or adding numbers or decimals, you put the place values underneath each other, like ones under the ones, 10 under the tens, tenths under the tenths, and so on, because you have to line up the decimals. So we'll do the same thing here and put a little plus sign there to indicate that we're adding these. So 4 plus 7 is 11. Add on 2 positive is a positive, and 1 plus 2 is 3x. B, notice that these two are the same and these two are the same. So we're doing the same thing by different methods. So we write down the first one. When we add on, we do not change the signs. So notice negative 2x minus 1. We group the like terms. We got an x squared. Then we have x's. And then we have the constants. Notice when I move the negative 2x to the left, I do not change the sign. When I move the negative 5 to the right, I do not change the sign. Add up like terms. And here we are. There's only one x squared, so we leave it alone. 6x and negative, subtract 2x is 4x. And negative 5, subtract 5, subtract 1 is subtract 6, or you can do the plus negatives if you wish. So when we add these two, we write down the first one, which is x squared plus 6x minus 5. And we're going to add on the binomial negative 2x minus 1. So notice that the negative 2x goes underneath the 6x, and the negative 1 goes underneath the negative 5. So we're lining up the like terms. So there's a plus sign to indicate we're going to add. Negative 5, negative 1, negative 6. 6, negative 2 is a 4. And that's positive. And note that this right here is nothing there, but we can go, if we wish, go 0x squared, but we don't bother. I don't bother to do that because I know that that's a 0. 0 times x squared is a 0. So I'm just putting that in to show you that the top one is a trinomial. Now the bottom one is a trinomial, is all lined up. Okay, vertical method is not very hard. Very easy to do, it's just a different way. Simplify each. Let's do some examples. Notice I have all three of these up and down. They're the vertical method, and they're all lined up. And we're adding. Add, pluses on the outside. Add. 4 and a negative 7 is a negative 3. 9x and 2x is 11x. We group the like terms. We're adding these. Notice x squared, x, and constants. They're all lined up. So negative 8 and 10 is plus 2. Negative 1, negative 3 is a negative 4. Notice, even though I call it subtract x and subtract 3x, when I go to add these, I think of it as a negative 1 and a negative 3 because they're both subtractions. And when we add these, I have an x squared, and 3 add on negative 7 is a negative 4. So there's the trinomial, the answer. C, add. They're all lined up. A's and B's and C's all lined up. So plus C minus C, they cancel out to give you 0. So I can put a 0 there, or I just cancel them out. And the B's are lined up, So 4 minus 6 is negative 2. And a negative 10 plus 12 is 2a. So when you add or subtract the numbers, and you keep the literal coefficient because you're adding and subtracting like terms. Practice. You do all of these and see if you can get the right answers. Here we go. Press pause, work them out, and then press play to see if you're right. Positive 8 subtract 6 is positive 2. Negative 11x, 7x is a negative 4x. And there's cubes and squares and x's and a constant. Notice the constant is always on the right side. The constant, notice a 3, a 2, and there's a 1, and there's a constant. The constant is always on the right. I always do descending order whenever possible, when there's a single variable. Negative 1 and 12 is a plus 11. Negative 5, and that's a negative 1, that's a negative 6x. That's an x squared, and we get 2 subtract 6 is subtract 4 or negative 4. That's cubed, there's a 1 there, so we get a cube, and 1 plus 3 is 4. Done. And they're lined up. There's an x, y on top of each other. Y's squares and above each other. And so, start on the left. We get a y squared. Negative 1 plus 4 is a plus 3. And an xy, negative 4, negative 1 understood is a negative 5. Done. Practice. Arrange each in descending order. Notice I lifted the word descending order. And remember, I'm just making up this. I decided that I would make up these units and occupy my time. So sometimes when I make an error, I just fit it in without rewriting it all over again, saving me time. Add by the vertical method. So descending order, adding by the vertical method. So what I have to do is I'm going to add the two of these together. So before we start, let's put them in descending order. So I have a 1, 4, 2, constant, and a 3. So let's put 3x to the 4 first. Then we put the 5x cubed second. And we put the positive x squared next. And we put the plus 8x next. Remember, that's a plus understood. And we have the negative 1. So there's the descending order for this one. We got a 4, a 3, a 2, and that's a 1, and the constant is, remember, that's an x to the 0. Negative 1, x to the 0, x to the 0 is a 1. And we had to put this one in descending order. So we have 3, 2, 4, and that's a 1, and that's a constant. So it's a 7x to the 4th, plus x cubed, minus x squared, minus 10x, plus 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the x to the 4, 3, 2, and that's a 1, and that's x to the 0, constant on the end. So I'm going to add these, arrange in descending order, and add. So rather than write this all down again, I'm just going to take this one and put it below this one right here, save time. So 7x to the 4th plus x cubed minus x squared minus 10x and a plus 6. So that's just saving time. I'm not going to write down the two of these again because it's a video. We want to save space. And we're going to add these together. So there they are. Notice when I move these around right here, I do not change the signs. I just keep the pluses as pluses and minuses as minuses. When I add these up, now I can add this whatever way. I can start here and go this way, or I can start here and go this way. It's your choice. Because they're all lined up. They're all like terms. So 6, negative 1 is a plus 5. 8 and negative 10 is a negative 2x. And the x squareds cancels out because they're pluses and minuses. And I get a 1 plus 5 is 6x cubed. Plus, and I have x to the 4th, and negative 3 plus 7 is a 4. So notice, if you were to rewrite this to give an answer, you would keep them closer to each other. like this. So there's the final answer. Notice you've got a 4, a 3, the 2 is missing. The x squared is missing. Because when you added these, you got a 0. So I'll put that in there I'll go plus 0x squared. So when I add 1 and a negative 1, I get a 0. But really, we don't need to put this in unless we wanted to keep the order the same and show it. So there's the answer. Notice the x squared is missing because there's a 0. Let's continue. Now, 0x to the 4 is 0. 0 times x cubed is 0. 0 times x squared is 0. 0 times x is 0. And we know that 0 times any number, whatever number you want, is 0. Or 0 bracket n is 0. 0 times any number is 0. If a term is missing when arranging in descending order, didn't proofread. When arranging in descending order, fill in the terms with 0 times the literal coefficient. So let's arrange in descending order, filling in the missing terms. Let's put a couple of dots there. So fill in this one. I have an x squared, but I don't have an x. So let's go with a 0x. So I'm filling in a 3, that's a 1, and that's a constant. So remember the constant, 3x to the 0 is understood because that's 3 times 1, which is 3. So that's x to the 0. So I'm filling in 0x. And in B, notice I got a 3, x cubed. I don't have an x squared, so I'll put in 0x squared. And there's the 4x. So that's a 3, 2, and that's a 1. Now I'm just putting a 0 on the end to show you that the constant term is a 0. So there it is from the beginning of 3 and a 2 and a 1 and a constant. C, I have a 5, a 3, and a 2. So we start with the x to the 5. X to the 4 is missing, so that's a 0x to the 4. We have the x cubed. We have the x squared. We don't have the x, so that's plus 0x and plus 0. So I have them all in. 5, 4, 3, 2. There's the 1 on top there and the constant. D, 6x. So that's a 1. So the only term on the right side of that is the 0. Now you won't see this. This is just me filling this in to let you know what's happening. You normally don't put the 0 here. And E, we have an x to the 4th, and we have a 7. So the 7 goes way over here on the end because that's the constant. So let's fill in between. 0x cubed, 0x squared, plus 0x. And there's your plus 7. So the 4 is there, constant is there. Remember the constant? Just to remind you, the constant is 7x to the 0. 7 times 1. And a reminder, it's not 7x to the 0. The 0 is with the x. Excuse me, I'm getting hoarse. The 0 is with the x, not with the 7. It's not this. So that's 0x to the 7, 7x to the 0. So that's 7 times 1, which is just 7. Again, reminding, that's x to the 0, understood. Rearrange in descending order, filling in the missing terms. Here we go. You practice these. Pause your video, work these out, press play to see if you're right. X to the 4th, I need an x cubed. I have an x squared. Don't have an x, 0. Don't have a constant. Notice to say when I have no, I put zeros. Negative 7x, and I need a constant. Notice I'm working down. Man, if I want to, I can make this 0x to the 5, 0x to the 6. I can go that way. I can make this one 0x squared, 0x cubed, but there's no need to keep going because I can go to infinity, going to the left there. And x to the 6th, I need an x to the 5, so 0x to the 5. I have no x to the 4th, so 0x to the 4th. There's the negative x cubed. I have no x squared. I have no x. Notice when I say I have no x, I put a 0 in. Good way to think of it. I don't know me, I have 0. And number 4 is 7x to the 5, 3x to the 4. There's no x cubed. There is an x squared. There's no x, and there's no constant. So when I say no, I put a 0. Good way to think about it. And we have another page to do. If I can get it turned over here. Here we go. Add each by the vertical method and arrange in descending order. So without rewrite, let's do this one right here. That's in descending order. 2. Whoop, no, it's not. Whoop, I almost. So descending order means a 2, a 1, and a 0. Descending order for this trinomial is 8x squared plus 6x minus 7. And let's take the 2 of these now and put them by the vertical method. Write down the first trinomial and put the second one below that. And remember, we're adding. So the 8x squared goes with the x squared. The plus 6x goes with the 4x. And the minus 7 goes with the 2. Draw a line, and we're going to add. Notice we're adding these. Add. Negative 7 and 2 is negative 5. 4 and 6 is 10 and an x. And we're adding, that's a 1, so that's a 9x squared. So notice when you add, you keep your term, your x squared, keep your x. B, descending order. So we have a 3, a 2, a 1, and a 0 constant. So we'll go with the 6x cubed first, 4x squared second, negative 3x, and then the negative 1. Descending order, 3, 2, 1. The constant is always on the right because of x to the 0. Now we have this one, so that's an x cubed. We have a no x squared plus a 10x minus a 5. So notice I put a 0x squared there. So if I write, I'm going to take this one now and write it. Nope, I'm going to rewrite them all. Why not? Just it's only a second or two. So there's the first polynomial right there. Now, if I left this one out, I just got to be careful. So the x cubed goes there. If I didn't put this one in, when I'm rewriting it, I would just leave that blank. So notice, if I didn't want to put the 0x squared in, when I was rewriting this, I put the x cubed right there, I put the 10x right there, and I put the minus 5 there without putting the 0x squared in. But if you want to put the 0x squared in, then you're not going to make a mistake because it's a 0. Nothing is going there, but I'll put it there anyway, like this. And now we got it all lined up and we're adding. Negative 1, negative 5 is negative 6. Negative 3 plus 10 is a plus 7. X. We're adding, so it's an x squared, and 4 and 0 is 4. So if I had that was a 0, then I would just add that. In other words, there's nothing to add to it, so I just bring it down. And that's an x cubed, and negative 6 plus 1, that's a 1 understood, so that's a negative 5. So notice, always rearrange in descending order. How many times do I see students descending order? They forget to put the polynomial in descending order. That makes things easier. Practice. Add each by the vertical method and arrange in descending order. So now, you work these out and by vertical method and see if you're going to get the same answer as I do. Pause your video and play it back. Here we go. I'm going to go with 10x plus 9. And this is already in descending order. So I'm going to add these together. So 10x plus 9, negative 4x plus 2. So there they are lined up, 11 and a 6x. Descending order, I got a 1, a 2, and a constant. So the negative 2x squared goes first, plus 6x minus 3. Notice I'm moving the 6x, but I don't change the sign. And I have an x squared, an x, and a constant. X, 12x squared minus 9x minus 8. Notice the constant is on the right. And I moved it, and I didn't change the sign. Now I have them, and negative 2x squared plus 6x minus 3. and the 12x squared below, the negative 9 below the 6x, and the negative 8 below the negative 3. All lined up, and we're going to add. We're adding. Plus sign over here in case you're adding. Add, because I've had them all lined up, I can start here and go 10x squared, and I get a negative 3x, and I get a negative 11. So I can add going this way or going that way because they're all lined up and ready to add. And descending order, let's see, got to be careful. So notice I have a 4, a 2, and a constant. And here I got a 3 and an x and a constant. So if I think about it, I can do this. 7x to the 4th. There's no cube, so just move that over. And I have no x, so move that over. So what I'm doing, I'm leaving space to add on the x cubed that's in here and the x that's here. So if I leave it out, then I don't have to put the zeros in. Then when I write this one down, I put that one right there because that's in between. And I put this 2 right here because that's a 4, 3, 2. There's the x there. And then that's the negative 1. But by filling in the 0x cubed and filling in the 0x, then by filling these in here, what happens? I will not, hopefully, will not make an error. So filling in the zeros with 0x cubed and 0x, filling in the 0x squared here, and if you did the descending order first on each of these, then when you line them up, the chances of making the error are less. So be careful. So descending order first, and then put them down. Anyway, you get a negative 5, and you get a 2x, and you get a 3x squared, and you get a negative 5x cubed. So I just did all that just to show you about the descending order and filling in with the 0x cubes, or you leaving them out and say, well, I don't have anything to go there. But remember, they have to go lined up. You got x to the 4th, x cubed, x squared, that's x to the 1, and then the constant is on the right. And the same thing here. I can go much. I'm going to do double now. I'm going to do it faster. That's x cubed. I have a no x squared. I have a no x and a 2. So that one's done. Now I can do this, but I can do it over here because I'm going to add this on. Let's put it down to save time. And I have a no x squared here, and I have a 9x, and I have a minus 5. So when you get good at it, and you know what you're doing, that's when you get good at it, and you know what you're doing, then you could do what I just did. Do the descending order and the addition all at the same time. But you got to know what you're doing. And I have many years of practice. And when you add those, you get a 0, and that's a 1 plus 6 is 7. So the final answer to this one, the line that keep it close, is 7x cubed plus 9x minus 3. Notice there's no x squared here, and there's no x squared here, so if you add these, you get a 0. So I could put that in, 0 plus 0, 0, but that, again, that's a waste of time, because when we rewrite it, we leave off the 0x squared. That takes us to the end of the video on adding by vertical form. So now notice the first video was adding it horizontally, going sideways. We remove the brackets and don't change the signs. So the two methods, your choice. Most of the time in math, we work the horizontal method. If you like my video, click the like button. If you're a subscriber, if you're not a subscriber, then subscribe to my channel and click the notification bell because there's many videos coming your way. And write a comment on the video if you wish, and visit my math website, www.mathfullyexplained.com, and there you get information on 3 sections. The Me has my degrees and teaching experience. The section on video has the teaching strategies you're going to use to help you learn your math, and the content is the topics or units that I have online, that I'm going to have on, or have online, or going to have online, and the number of videos on each of those topics. The black font is the units online right now, and the red font is the one that be coming in the near future. And that's why you click the notification bell, because there's always videos, new videos being done. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.